Head? It's an itch or a cut that simply won't go away.
It appears to be a battle scar.
Ah, as I suspected. It must be from my most recent battle. You should see the other man. He got the worst of it.
Worse than... I suppose it's possible, yes. If he is headless. Fucking wolves. To call.
Boy, was I ever wrong. I was so wrong. Ever since I heard about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, all the trailers or the news before the game got released, I really wanted to hate and boycott on this particular video game. And if I was a famous YouTuber with 1 million subscriber channel, I would have urged all my people to stay away from this video game. In my mind, at a first glance and, all the hype that built it around Valhalla, it felt like a French gaming company trying to take a piss on the Brits. Playing a big, angry, invading Viking that kills everything British left and right. And somehow for me, it didn't feel okay. I felt like I was playing 100% a bad guy, and there was nothing much of that chivalry and that hero-esque kind of character that the Assassin's Creed franchise have given us in the past. Luckily enough, I was able to get my own ignorant head out of my ass before buying Assassin's Creed Valhalla and brushed up on history, something that I had no idea about. Zero. And most of the sources, as it turns out, get it wrong, including these guys. Well, there's no such thing as 100% accurate history. But most of the stuff that we see on TV, your Netflix series, your documentaries, even the things that are in school manuals, history school manuals, kind of get it wrong about the Vikings. Not all the way wrong when it comes to dates, periods of times, etc., but about how they were as people. And very surprisingly, it took the French. It's funny because it's a French company, Ubisoft, to get it right. Origins was the warm-up. Odyssey was very good, and now Valhalla comes full circle. Graphics are better, lighting is everything in this game. It makes the whole scene look beautiful. Atmosphere 10 out of 10. Combat above everything has improved. Before you skip ahead or click on an entire video altogether, please let me just show you this.
You Saxons and your tiny splendor. You have never seen mountains, have you? Or deep fjords like a giant's axe wound. Or towering falls that steam in the dead of winter. Snow sparkling like a blanket of jewels. That is splendor.
Well, if your homeland is so splendorful, why come to England at all?
You cannot grow crops on a blanket of jewels.
Very true.
I'll admit, your countryside does take the breath away.
A Viking, in my perception, back 1 month ago, was someone who looked like a complete savage with a helmet with horns, who hasn't taken a bath in 1 year and who just kills everything for sport and out of anger. They were just some no-good invaders who rampage and raided everything in their path. Well, wrong. And just like any other part of history, there's always a gradient. There's colors. There's no such thing as black and white. There's always something in the middle. There is so much color in this video game. Metaphorically and actual color palettes. Like I said, the lighting is fantastic. There's so much history, more history than ever before in any Assassin's Creed video game. Probably the first time told from a kind of like a really biased point of view. And surprisingly enough, again, coming from a French company, I can't stress enough how good Assassin's Creed Valhalla is and how amazing it looks on a HDR screen. I actually feel like this is the best HDR implementation in any video game I've ever played. And so much more. Buy it, play it, enjoy it, love it. I very much recommend Assassin's Creed Valhalla. If you're still around for the second part of the video, I would like to tell you just why this game left such a good impression with me, and I felt like it was probably one of the best Assassin's Creed video games I've ever played. Maybe help you make a purchase decision. God knows Assassin's Creed video games are not cheap, and a lot of us look in our pockets and say, yeah, maybe I'll skip it because I guess it's not worth it. And there's so much negative reviews, so many negative reviews about this game out there. That's why I stood away for such a long time from Valhalla, and I bought other video games. Yeah, that one. Bad things are kind of not worth talking about, unless you want to shed some light and you want to raise awareness. But when your heart sings for something and you play something so good, you gotta put your mouth where your heart is. And this was a 90% excellent gaming experience with probably 10% minor issues left and right, a couple of them. Nothing that will ruin your gaming experience. There is no such thing as a perfect video game, and this makes no exceptions. So you can definitely get blunt reviews from all the major YouTube channels out there. You probably can watch 100 videos about them. For me, because I also watched those reviews, none of them made me buy it. I convinced myself when I started to read about the history of the Vikings, particularly in the English area of the world.
Look ahead there! Is that what passes for a town? Plain brick in a single rune to their timid god?
That rune is called a root, Doug. The cross upon which their god was sacrificed. It sits atop a monastery, a place of worship.
That cross killed their Christ, and now they display it in worship? Bizarre.
We carve idols of our gods and make wishes before them. Like our sacrifices to Odin the One-Eyed.
But we do not worship the wolf that kills him. That is the difference.
Whatever strangeness we see in these Saxons, they must think the same of us.
Back in the days, for me, Assassin's Creed was all about Ezio. It started with Altair, did not make a very good impression on me. Ezio was the one true hero of the Assassin's Creed franchise. And then Connor came along, and then Nathan. I'm always going to remember Ezio. For me, that guy, it was everything when it came to Assassin's Creed video games.
Welcome home.
A story of love, laughter. He was Italian. He had that romanticism to him. He was brave. It was a story about love and sorrow. Just like pretty much all the other Assassin's Creed stories told so far. The previous one, Odyssey, Cassandra's story, really felt heartwarming. Eivor, this crazy ass Vikinger, she will definitely also be remembered. Well, if you play him as a guy, he will be remembered. I played it as a she. With more RPG elements more than ever before in any Assassin's Creed video game, Eivor is how you make her to be. You can play her how you want to. Merciless or kind. As a loving person or more of a soldier in a very long line of Assassin's Creed heroes, because this franchise goes all the way back to 15 years ago. Eivor stands proud. They really did justice for this beautiful Vikinger.
So easily wounded by words. Imagine the ruin my axe would inflict on your flaccid ego.
My flaccid what? Please stop this.
You heard me.
In Origins, you're a guy trying to avenge the death of your son, and your wife just happens to be the first ever assassin in history on planet Earth of all assassins. She literally made the creed. In Odyssey, you want to find your father, or at least find out who your real father is, while trying to understand what's happening with your brother. And then you find out that your father is a semi-god, while all along your brother was this leader of this crazy-ass cult organization where you get to assassinate everyone in orderly fashion. In Valhalla, you follow in the footsteps of history more than any Assassin's Creed ever made, like actual history. Except the guys from Egypt, from Origins, found your brother, well, not those guys, but fast forward 1,000 years, the same guys from Egypt found your brother in Valhalla, followed him all the way to Norway, and then followed you and your brother in England. So you're still kind of replaying, reshaping history. It's just that this time around you're doing it as an assassin apprentice. You never really become an assassin in this video game, not like in any other previous Assassin's Creed video game. For the entire duration, it doesn't focus on Assassin's Creed. You're mainly someone doing their work. You're just a Viking trying to take care of your settlement. Other than that, it really has nothing to do with Assassin's Creed. But that's not a bad thing at all. They say that in Valhalla, social stealth is back. In fact, it is back. It gives you a tutorial just how to do it. You can blend into crowds, or you can stand next to someone on a bench. And I really couldn't care less. Remember what Eivor said at the beginning of the game when she was handed the hidden blade? That she specifically wanted to have it upwards instead of hidden underneath her arm.
The blade should ride on the underside of your arm to conceal it from your target.
I have no wish to hide this, and I would rather not make the same mistake you two have. I like it.
That's right. You play a Viking, and Vikings don't really hide. At least that's how I choose to kind of roleplay it in my mind. So every single time the game forces you to put the hood on, it just puts the hood on automatically for you. I just press the B button and I took the hood off every single time. I refused to wear the hood for the entire duration of the game. That's how I roleplayed it. I didn't want to take any stealth skills. Even though the game still forces you to take a couple of stealth skills, I didn't play this stealthy at all. Eivor's decisions to wear the hidden blade up front instead of hidden sets for me, and I guess for everybody else, the tone for the entire game. It immediately shows you what sort of Assassin's Creed this is gonna be like. Viking style Assassin's Creed. No stealth, no hiding, blow your horn proud and loud, be fierce, be heavy, be aggressive. Big ass hammer, big ass shield, you go all the way in. There's no stealthing, there's raiding. My choices, my role playing, and that's how I kind of chose to look at it and to play it. It was so fun. And the fact that the game gives you this option, guys, it's 10 out of 10. In the middle of the game, literally when I was, I think, 30 plus even more hours, 30, 40 hours in the game, I just found out you can use the shield in your offhand. In fact, you can use 2 shields, each in one hand, and you can attack with the shield and parry, obviously, still with the shield, instead of an axe or a sword or a hammer. And it completely changes the skills. And of course, it looks different, the combat looks different, and the animations. Never seen that in any other video game. Well, almost, but not like this implemented. Certainly never like this. Certainly never in an Assassin's Creed video game. The combat is way off the charts. I'm loving it. Also, fun fact, when you zoom onto the map, to a monastery or to other places, if it's a monastery, it starts to chant, to say something. If it's a crowded city, you get to hear the chatter of the people, just a little bit, or a little bit of rumble. That's a cool, neat little detail that they added in. I wonder what's the demographics for these type of video games. Well, at first, when, you know, the first Assassin's Creed came out like 15 years ago, the demographics were males. Video games were mainly played by men. Women and girls play video games as well, but the demographic was always males. Things have been changing quite a lot for about a decade and a half, and I think we're really past that moment. As you can see, for a couple of years now, we started to get choices to play with female characters, and we have female characters inclusion. How come on every single cover of Assassin's Creed video game, you always get the male version? Yeah, sure, on Odyssey, I believe there's a female version cover as well, but that wasn't really advertised at all. Everywhere on every single video game, including this one, you always get the male version on the cover. There's something about the fact that I am a heterosexual male, and for the past 15 years, I've been constantly playing Assassin's Creed male heroes. I got fed up with it. And I don't know if I'm the only one, man. I mean, sure, Altair was great, and Ezio, I wouldn't have it any other way. I loved him, and I loved playing Ezio, but I'm getting tired. 50 years is about enough to the point where I just want to choose 100% a female character to play it as. So again, what's the demographics that Ubisoft bases themselves on? Do they see how many male buy the video game, how many women buy the video game? What's the decision behind them constantly putting male characters on every single front cover poster of their Assassin's Creed video games? Remember, Odyssey gave us quite a couple of DLCs. I believe 2 or 3 main DLCs. Just like Valhalla. Valhalla also has 3 main DLCs. In Odyssey, the last DLC and probably the biggest was Atlanta. It was a very big DLC where you just had to play it after you finished the game, and you went to this mystical place and you get to, you know, play with the gods, etc., etc. This time around in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, in this video game, it is integrated into the main game. You don't have to buy anything else separately. It is available to you right away in the actual video game, the base video game. This time around, of course, because it's Vikings, it's about Asgard. And you get to play a very, very long side quest all in Asgard. And this other place that was made out of ice, my bad, I forgot what it was called. But again, the quest is very, very long. It's actually 2-part. One in Asgard and the other one in the other place with a lot of snow. Very, very big, large areas. I would say kind of like the size of Atlanta, if not even big, combined together. And the fact that they give it to you right away in the main video game, that is so generous. Honestly, this could have been a complete separate DLC. They give it to you for free in the main game. 10 out of 10. Kudos, Ubisoft. And another bonus that I kind of discovered If you pre-order Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I did not do, they gave you The Legend of Beowulf and another DLC, which is, again, well, not that long, but it's a pretty hefty side quest with a bear and this, this guy. I remember the side quest, but I was also a part of the gold edition of the game or the unlimited edition of the game, right? So you had to purchase those ones. With in-game currency and whatever you find opals or something like that, in-game currency, you can go to Ubisoft Store and purchase this particular side quest that you can, well, at first you can always get it with the gold edition. And I thought, again, that was very generous because they were letting us play something with in-game currency. And you could buy a bunch of other stuff. You can buy it with in-game currency. And that, again, gives you more access to more things. Again, I think that's fair. Again, 10 out of 10. Really appreciate it. Let's talk about raiding and my least favorite part of the entire game. And raiding was the only place where I found the game to be incredibly repetitive and it felt grindy. You're not forced to do raiding. You're absolutely not forced to do raiding if you're role-playing the way I was role-playing. I didn't want to play as a bad guy. I didn't want to raid. And honestly, because it's so long and tedious and boring, well, I did it because I wanted to get Saint Nicholas or whatever that name was. They give you a special armor, which looks very cool, and his sword. And I think I might have played for about 8-10 hours in a complete day just to do the raiding over and over and over again. It felt very repetitive. I felt tired and I didn't have fun with it. But that was my choice. It doesn't have to be yours. But what is raiding and how they kind of implemented it? Well, one of the main quests in the game, it tells you that you have to upgrade your settlement. The only way you're going to be able to really upgrade your settlement if you do raids. You get a bunch of resources if you do the side quests, yada, 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 the main quest. You don't get enough, items or whatever to upgrade your settlement. Raiding is the only way you can actually completely upgrade your settlement. It's impossible to do it without resources. You need the resources. There is no way around it. You have to kind of put in the hours if you want to upgrade your settlement. And you have the option to call your river raids, your boat, your buddies, whatever, by blowing your horn, pressing J on a keyboard, and you can raid whatever. Or basically, you can teleport yourself to another part of the map. This is not very confusing. It probably sounds more complete, but it's not. In fact, you can raid your neighbors. That's exactly how the video game explains this to you. You can raid your neighbors, the people around your settlement, without them knowing that it's you. You're kind of like hidden. And how you do it, they teleport you to this completely different map from the main story map, which is specifically designed for raids. And you can just keep doing this as many times as you like. It's like I said, repetition. You wait, they get more resources, you raid it again and again and again. And I believe you have 3 different maps that you can teleport yourself. You can go and you do these raids, and you also get these cool items, and you can obtain the special armor that I was talking about. I didn't like it. I felt like it was horrible. You were raiding your neighbors. You know, you become this anti-hero all of a sudden. I mean, it's kind of hypocrite. I found it a bit hypocrite that whenever you were hitting civilians, the game warned you and told you that you could get desynchronized, right? If you keep hitting civilians. Oh, really? But it's okay, I guess, to go raid their houses, their villages, and burn everything to the ground. But God forbid you hit one of them by mistake. I mean, you just burned their entire village to the ground. But yeah, so at some point, Eivor becomes Darth Vader, because there's definitely a good side to her, but she's definitely an anti-hero most of the times. It's a part of this particular Assassin's Creed. It's a part of Valhalla. That's just how it is. It doesn't force you to do it, but if you want to upgrade your settlement, if you want to get the bonus items, raiding is the only way.
Hey, but I could show you how to wield my plow sword.
Sheathe your plow sword, brother. I'm not interested.
You thought... No, I wasn't serious.
the skill tree. I heard a lot of people on YouTube and everywhere else say that Assassin's Creed Valhalla gives you the biggest skill tree ever in any Assassin's Creed video games. That's almost true, and not really. I feel like the skills were kind of equal or even less than what you got in Odyssey. That's right. And also the skills are very, very lazy. Not only that you can get them incredibly fast and easy, but you can reset your skills at any given time. Just press the button, and let's say you have level 100, that means 100 skills. At one single press of the button, you can reset all of those skills and reapply them however you wish. You can do this unlimited times. No one is stopping you to constantly resetting your skills. It doesn't cost anything, doesn't take anything. You can do it as many times as you want to. Not only that this is new for Assassin's Creed, but it's kind of new for the way we kind of play role-playing games altogether. I felt like it was a bit lazy, and also not only that it didn't punish you, but I don't want my video game to be punishing me, but I felt like there were no consequences. Like if I chose a bunch of skills that I didn't like, who cares? I could just reset them at the press of a button. And I felt like that was, without any consequence, and it was very lazy. I kind of like it, but I kind of don't, because I'm used to owning my consequences. And when I set up on a path to do my character in a certain way, I kind of want to stick with that. But here you could just play with them however you want to. I feel like it's a lazy system. Some people are going to absolutely love it, while some people, maybe old school gamers like me, might be a bit against this or dislike it. It depends. It's not for everyone, but you have it. And why do I say that the skill tree is not bigger than than in Odyssey or perhaps Origins, is because you get a ton of passive skills and only a couple of active skills. Well, they're not just a couple, but I feel like they're not more than what you got in Odyssey. There are a lot of them because I don't know, 70% of them are all passive skills, right? And you just get a couple of active ones. And when it comes to active skills, you get to see what they do. You get to see the animation. They all do different stuff. The rest is just passive stuff that you don't see it. It's behind. It's in a form of numbers. You don't have 1% defense. Now you have 10% defense, right? It's just numbers. You don't really get to see exactly what they do. So as big as this skill tree is, because it's most of it passive skills, I don't really feel like it's bigger than Odyssey. Everything in Valhalla is either cold or wet, or cold and wet. And that kind of sets the entire atmosphere. The dialogue is very not funny or romantic, but very straightforward. Often enough, you feel like Eivor, the main character, is trying to build up a business because she's just trying to expand her reign and make alliances and trying to get resources for settlement and try to get people to join her. I feel like she's the CEO of a company where she's actually the grunt as well, because she's both doing the fighting and she's sending people everywhere else to do the fighting for her. It has a more serious, much more serious vibe than any other Assassin's Creed. And honestly, this might be a bit of a negative, and for me it kind of was. Assassin's Creed Odyssey really felt like it was all about the story. I really immersed myself in Cassandra's vision of Greece and the friends that she had, the love that she had for everybody. It was a lot of heartwarming story. There is not much of a heartwarming story to Eivor. And even the main plot with her brother, that I don't want to spoil it, is a bit kind of meh, really. I know I put in a lot of hours because there's so much to do around the map, but when it comes to main story, this might be the weak point. It's probably the weakest stories that I've seen in an Assassin's Creed video game, right? And since I'm talking about things that are not that good, let me just dive into that 10% of negative things that I was able to find with Valhalla. Like I said, this is not a perfect video game. And the number one thing that really bothered me the most was occasionally, depends. You would have, you can get crashes. It crashes to desktop. This started happening to me after I kind of played halfway through the game. So 30, 40 hours in, I never experienced a single crash. And then they would have gotten more sudden. Out of around 70 hours played so far in Valhalla, maybe it crashed around 20 times. It does seem to be quite a lot of times, and there's moments when you haven't saved or the game doesn't save, so it kind of sets you back about 10-15 minutes and you have to replay the whole thing. It even happened during boss fights, and guess what? You gotta play the entire boss fight all over again, which is, well, not that fun. I'm not gonna talk about the frames or anything like that. I felt like this is very, very well optimized. There's the Helix store. Don't pay attention to it. You know, that's just how it is. They have to make some money out of it. Most of the armors that you get on the Helix store, and you will find this all over the YouTube, are not actually better than the armors that you find in game. Yeah, they look flashy because they're supposed to look flashy, but they're not game breaking. Most of the stuff that you do find in game is better than you have than you get on the Helix store. So you can just ignore the Helix store altogether. Multiplayer. When will they ever give us co-op in Assassin's Creed? Never. Never is the answer. When Odyssey was still going around, maybe 2019 or something like that, they were talking about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and there was a bunch of leaks and a bunch of people and some footage or whatnot showing some sort of a form of a multiplayer and talk about co-op. I guess somewhere along the line they decided not to do it. There's no co-op. There's no multiplayer. They say there is some multiplayer. There's zero multiplayer. They try to do some sort of form of multiplayer just like it did in Odyssey. It doesn't work. It's nothing. It's just no multiplayer. And it's so easy, like it's right there in front of you. And why do I say it is right there in front of you? Because you get to play as Eivor male version and as female version, right? Okay, still Eivor, but the fact that you have these two sides and you can actually combine them, the game gives you this option. It feels like it's seamless multiplayer. Like I could just jump in and play as someone in my village. You know, if you're playing the female, I could jump in as the male and help with raids, help with side questing, help with all sorts of stuff. I felt like the multiplayer was so easy to implement, yet they didn't do it. And this, again, 15 years in the making, and they haven't figured out how to do multiplayer for Assassin's Creed. Very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. I don't know when they're gonna give us some co-op in this video game. They give you very, very good co-op in Far Cry, for example. And it's still Ubisoft, so why not give it to us in Assassin's Creed? Valhalla really convinced me once and for all that this genre is going places, right? With Origins, I didn't really like it, and I didn't really like where it was going. I felt like they were dragging this along, you know, like the Odyssey was amazing and I loved it. And now Valhalla really, really sparks my energy. And I couldn't wait to see what you know, I just want to see what they're going to do next. Hopefully, one of these days, not only that we're going to get co-op, but maybe we're going to get the Asian version, right? I want to play in Japan. I want to, you know, I want to experience Assassin's Creed from a Japanese version. I want to be able to climb up one of those huge Japanese castles and look at the beautiful background of those Japanese forests and get to play a female version of an assassin and have this armor looking like some sort of kimono. I don't know what they call them, but that would be just amazing. And to get those Japanese swords and just, I would hope that in the future they will take it to Japan, they will take it to Asia. Really, really looking forward to it. And co-op. Come on, Ubisoft, just give us some co-op, please.
Cast about this land, my friend.
Video games in general, as a kind of like a closing statement or something like that, are just as good as you are mentally ready for them, right? Sometimes you feel like you want to punch someone's face in, you want to pop in some Mortal Kombat. Sometimes you just want to drive a fast car. Sometimes you just want to fool around with your friends. I guess for me, Valhalla came at the right time. I really wanted to quench my thirst for action RPGing. I really wanted another Witcher, I guess. I wanted to have the skill trees and the action and the upgrade to the weapons and all of that. I was really looking forward to it. And Cyberpunk for me should have been that game. In November, I did not purchase Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I purchased Cyberpunk. And that really wasn't enough to quench my thirst. In fact, it kind of left me with a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. This time around, Valhalla found me, like, I was there mentally. I was ready for it, and I guess that's why I enjoyed it so much. It's a very good game. It's worth every single cent. I was able to get it off. I think I purchased it on 35 euros or something like that, so I got a little bit of a discount. I enjoyed every minute of it. Assassin's Creed Valhalla took me on a trip. And it was a wonderful trip because God knows I haven't been in a real one for a long time. It really does. From a video game simulation point of view, it's a wonderful trip. Eivor, I couldn't imagine a better voice acting for Eivor. Like, if I would be looking at a real life Viking that would speak English for some reason, but I guess they wouldn't because English was not invented back then. That's the voice that Viking would have. Like, I feel like they nailed the voice acting on Eivor. Just loved it, man. Just loved it. She was so badass. She was so strong. Yet she had her sensitive moments and just a very good, fulfilling package this character brings along. And she will not be forgotten. Eivor is definitely up there with my favorite Assassin's Creed characters.